Hint number 2, listening to understand. In a chaotic world, the tendency is to not listen to understand, but to listen to respond. Listen to respond comes from our inability to deal with things we don't like or things we don't understand. So when we hear something we don't like or we hear something we don't understand, what we want to do is we either want to fix it or we want to judge it on a physiological level. Every human being has the same response. Listening to understand actually comes from a concept written by Stephen Covey. And the idea is, instead of listening to respond, is actually listening to understand what they're saying. This is combined with another model called an emotional bank account. So as you're trying to build a relationship, as you're trying to create relationships that you value, one of the things you can do to invest in that relationship is to actually listen to understand, to try to really hear what they have to say, instead of trying to find a position of power or try to find a position of I'm smarter than, or just really not even wanting to hear what they have to say. In a chaotic world, especially in the one we live right now, we hear a lot of binary thinking or binary listening, where it's black or white, it's one or the other, that you have to fit in one or the other. Listening to understand is very different. You're not trying to put things into one category or the other. What you're trying to do is hear what the person's saying and trying to really understand what they're trying to say. The emotional bank account is something that you invest into, especially relationships that are at the center of your relationship circle. The way we listen to understand, it first begins with being in the moment. It is difficult to be in the moment, especially when we hear something we don't like or something we don't understand. We want to respond to it. We want it to go away. We want it to change. We want their thinking or what they're saying to change. And so instead of being in the moment, we actually are in our head formulating answers or formulating ways to fix someone or giving them judgment that will change the way they're thinking, that will change what they're saying, which will take us out of our discomfort. Being in the moment is actually being right there and then, putting aside all distractions, putting aside all things that you're dealing with at the time, and just investing and hearing what they have to say. The second thing is having good body language. 70 to 80% of what we communicate is communicated through body language. And most of that is communicated on an unconscious level. We huff, or we roll our eyes, or we click and roll, or we make little body changes with our arms or our shoulders that may be indiscernible, but on a deeper level, they actually say a lot. This again is not listening to understand. This is a way to respond. And a lot of our responses are based on this model of fixing and or judging. The third thing is to reflect, to really hear what they say and to say back to them what you've heard. When I'm confronted with someone who says they want me to listen to them, I usually ask them 3 questions. Do you want me to listen to you? Do you want feedback? Or do you want advice? I used to give advice out like candy because I thought I was so wise. As I've gotten older, I realize I just don't know that much. So I really trend towards trying to listen to understand to invest. And the number of people that I've actually listened to where I haven't said a word and who've gotten done with the conversation and said, oh my gosh, that was the wisest, greatest thing I've ever heard, where I didn't say anything. My wife is an example of a person who's a verbal processor. She doesn't want me to answer. She doesn't want me to fix it. She doesn't want me to judge it. She just wants to talk. She puts those things into categories and makes sense of it. So now when I ask her, do you want me to listen, give feedback, or give advice, she usually just says she wants me to listen. That's the reflection piece. The final piece of listening to understand is to use people's names. This not only shows respect, but it also draws people into the conversation. So as you're responding back to what they say, including their name in there, says you're listening to them and you respect them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Yoder. I'm a researcher and former librarian. I'm also a musician and I play flute. My skill is listen to understand. As an introvert, I've had this skill for as long as I can remember. In music, I have to deeply listen to understand the parts, players, and emotions. At work, I listen to understand what colleagues really need, giving them space to share. Personally, deep listening is about being present, compassionate, and self aware. I can always improve this skill though. If I find my mind preparing a response, I return my focus on the other person so I can really hear what they're sharing and feeling. By asking what the person needs, whether it's advice or simply be heard, I can be more supportive. To me, listening to understand feels like a hug of compassion, to know I'm being heard and not alone. So here's to listening to understand, and thank you.
Hi, my name's Greg Tillman. I've been a mental health counselor for 30 years. I've been married for 10 years and I have two wonderful boys. Today, I like to speak a little bit about listening. Listening is a very difficult skill to do. Most people think they're good listeners, but a lot of people listen with the idea of saying what they want to say or using listening against the person. Hopefully, the four positive things is you can be respectful, you listen to understand, you listen for information, and to be supportive. Those are the four things that I've used in my career that are very important. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the video. My greatest hope is that by watching this, you either change your mindset or your intention or your practice. In this chaotic world, one of the things that brings back hope and help is a concept of bringing back control. And control comes back in little pieces. So through practice and rituals, you can regain control and regain energy. When we are fatigued and we are exhausted, one of the things we forget is where we do have control and where we do have power. Control and power comes through how we express the energy we have in our life. It also comes through how we change the rituals and the routines that we're practicing. Through watching this video, I hope you found a way to change your mindset and your outcomes and found a better and healing place to find energy. If you have any more questions, you're welcome to go to kairosSEI.com, where you can find more resources and more information on our website. Thank you.